What if your body has been trying to tell you something really important, but it's using a silent language you didn't even know it was speaking? In this explainer, we're going to decode a fascinating signal that might be hiding in plain sight, literally right in your own mouth. So let's start with a really quick exercise. Go on, walk over to a mirror and stick out your tongue. Seriously, I'll wait. Now, take a good, close look at the edges. Are they nice and smooth? Or do they look kind of wavy, with a little indentations that seem to line up perfectly with your teeth? If you saw those wavy edges, well, you're definitely not alone. It's an incredibly common thing that most people just ignore. So today, we're going to play detective and figure out what this little clue is trying to tell us. Because trust me, it's not just some weird quirk. It's a key piece of your own personal health puzzle. Yeah, this whole thing is way more than just a curiosity. It can actually be a visual signpost pointing to your overall health. Many health practices, both ancient and modern, look at the tongue for insights. And these specific marks, they're a classic signal that something might deserve a little more attention. Okay, so let's really dive into this. To get what the message is, we first have to give this thing a proper name and understand, what's physically happening to cause it in the first place.
I gotta say, I love the different names for this. Pie crust tongue. I mean, how descriptive is that? You can just picture it, right? But whether you call it that or the more clinical crenated tongue, it all means the exact same thing. For some reason, your tongue is pressing against your teeth hard enough and long enough to leave an imprint.
And that's really the crucial point here. It's basically a space issue. It really just boils down to one of two things. Either the tongue itself has actually gotten bigger, that's a condition called macroglossia, and it's just too large for the space it's in. Or the tongue is being actively pushed against the teeth because of some kind of unconscious habit or force. So if a scalloped tongue is the clue, what are we actually investigating? This is where our detective work really starts, because this one single sign can point to several very different underlying issues. Let's take a look at the 3 most common suspects. And here is where it gets super interesting. As you can see, the clues point in 3 totally different directions: your hormones, your sleep quality, and even your stress levels. So how do they all lead back to this one physical sign? Let's break it down. First step, let's talk about the thyroid. If your thyroid gland is underactive, it can slow down your body's metabolism and cause something called myxedema. Basically, your tissues start retaining fluid and they swell up. In this case, the tongue literally gets bigger, and that extra size just pushes it right up against the teeth, creating those telltale scalloped edges. Now our second suspect, it shows up while you're asleep. For someone with sleep apnea, their body might be unconsciously pushing the tongue forward, trying to keep the airway open while they're sleeping. Or if you're someone who grinds their teeth, that's called bruxism. That intense pressure can literally squish the tongue against the teeth all night long. And this third one, it just brilliantly illustrates that powerful mind-body connection. High levels of stress or anxiety can actually show up physically in a process they call somatization. It can trigger these habits you're not even aware you're doing, like constantly clenching your jaw or pressing your tongue against your teeth. And over time, that constant low-grade pressure is more than enough to create those wavy marks. Okay, so you've seen the sign, you understand who the potential culprits are. Now what? What do you actually do with this information? The most important thing to remember here is that the scalloped tongue isn't the problem itself. It's just the messenger. I really love this quote. It captures the perfect mindset. It's not some scary symptom, it's a silent witness. So the goal isn't to jump to conclusions or self-diagnose based on a web search, right? It's about listening to that witness and then taking the correct, informed next step. So, what's the action plan? Well, it's a pretty simple 3-step protocol. First, just observe. Pay attention to what you see and how you're feeling. Are you tired all the time? Anxious? Sleeping terribly? Second, start considering the connections we talked about. Does any of that resonate with you? And finally, and this is the most critical step, consult a professional. Take your observations to a doctor or a dentist so they can help you really investigate the root cause. So let's zoom out for the final takeaway here, because this isn't really just about your tongue. This is about learning to listen to your body's entire language, getting better at sensing what's going on inside. A scalloped tongue is just a perfect, real-world example of the constant feedback our bodies are giving us. So the key takeaway here is to approach these signs with curiosity, not fear. Don't let it worry you, let it empower you. Use it as a starting point for a really productive conversation with a healthcare provider who can give you the real answers. So, the big question this all leaves us with is this. What other silent signals is your body sending you right now, just waiting to be understood? Thank you for joining this explainer.
All right, quick reset. Blink twice, stretch your shoulders, and don't worry, your health lesson isn't over yet. We're switching gears now, but this next topic is just as important for your body. And if you care about staying healthy the smart way, make sure you're subscribed.
You know, our bodies have these fascinating, kind of subtle ways of sending us signals. And sometimes the biggest clues about what's going on deep inside are, well, they're hiding in plain sight. Today, we're going to talk about one specific sign your eyes might be showing you about the health of your heart. So I want you to do something. The next time you're in front of a mirror, get a little closer. Take a really good look at your eyes. Have you ever noticed a soft, kind of hazy ring right on the edge of the colored part, the iris? You've probably seen it on someone before, maybe even yourself, and just never gave it a second thought. But it turns out that little ring can tell a surprisingly big story. And this is what it looks like. It can start out as just an arc, a little curve at the top or bottom of your cornea. That's the clear dome covering your iris. But over time, it can actually fill in to become a complete circle. The color is usually a faint white or a light gray, sometimes even a little bit bluish. All right, so what's the deal with this ring? What do we call it? Well, the official medical term is corneal arcus. Let's break down what it is and, more importantly, what it could mean for you. So what is this thing actually made of? It's pretty incredible, really. That cloudy haze you see, it's literally a deposit of lipids. Yep, fats, mostly cholesterol, that have sort of leaked out from tiny blood vessels and just collected right there in the tissue of your cornea. Okay, first things first, let's get one thing straight. This ring itself is totally harmless to your eye. It's not going to affect your vision, it's not a cataract, and there's no treatment for it, mostly because it doesn't need one. But, and this is a big but, that is not the end of the story. And that brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation, the meaning of this ring. Whether it's a big deal or no deal at all depends almost entirely on one single thing, your age. This is the difference that makes all the difference. All right, check this out. If you're over, say, 50 or 60, and you have this ring, it's called Arcus Senilis. It's considered a totally normal part of aging. As we get older, our blood vessels just get a little more permeable. It happens. But here's the key. If that exact same ring shows up in someone under the age of 50, it gets a different name, Arcus juvenalis. And in that case, it's not so normal. It's a potential red flag for high cholesterol. And listen, this isn't just some folk wisdom, it is a well-established clinical sign. This quote from the Atherosclerosis Journal says it all. Finding this ring in a younger person should immediately make you think, okay, let's go check those cholesterol levels. It's a clear signal to investigate. So let's just lock this number in our minds, 50. Under 50 is the key. If you see this sign and you're younger than that, your body might be giving you a very early, very visible heads up that something's going on under the surface. So you're probably asking, why does a harmless little ring in my eye have anything to do with my heart? Great question. It's because the process that's building that ring isn't just happening in your eye. This is where it all connects, the visible sign and the invisible danger. Let's talk about atherosclerosis. This is the silent, sneaky process that's the root cause of most heart attacks and strokes. It's a gradual buildup of this fatty gunk, this plaque, inside your arteries. It makes them hard and it makes them narrow. This is the invisible problem that the ring in your eye might be pointing to. And here it is. This is the big aha moment. The exact same mechanism that deposits cholesterol in your cornea is also happening in the walls of your arteries. It's the same story, just in a different location. The ring in your eye is like a visible symptom of a much more dangerous invisible process happening all over your body. Let's walk through it step by step. First, you've got too much of that LDL, the bad cholesterol, floating around in your blood. Second, these little fat particles start getting deposited into different body tissues. Third, when that happens in your cornea, which is clear, we can actually see it. It forms that visible ring, the corneal arcus. But at the exact same time, step 4 is happening. In your artery walls, that same process is forming invisible and potentially dangerous plaque. The ring is literally a window into this hidden process. So, if this ring is a potential warning sign for high cholesterol, what can we actually do about the root problem? Obviously, a solid diet, exercise, and talking to your doctor are number one. But science is also uncovering some really powerful natural compounds that can help. Let's look at one of the most promising ones. So this is citrus bergamot. It's a pretty unique citrus fruit that really only grows in this one tiny coastal strip of southern Italy. And it turns out, it's absolutely packed with these unique compounds called polyphenols, which are powerful plant-based antioxidants that have been getting a ton of attention in clinical research for cholesterol management. Let's just look at the data, because the numbers speak for themselves. This is from a human clinical trial back in 2011. Now look at that 1,000 milligram dose. After only 30 days, participants saw their total cholesterol drop by almost 31%. Their bad LDL cholesterol went down by over 38%. And here's the kicker. Their good HDL cholesterol went up by 39%. I mean, those are really significant changes in a short amount of time.
So how does it pull this off? Well, bergamot has these really unique polyphenols that launch a multi-pronged attack. They help signal the liver to slow down its own cholesterol production, and they also seem to block some cholesterol from being absorbed from your food in the first place. And what's really interesting is that this seems to be a different mechanism than how statin drugs work, which is pretty cool.
Okay, we've covered a lot. So what does this all mean for you? Let's boil it all down into some clear, actionable steps you can take starting today. Here's what you really need to remember. That ring in your eye, it's a potential signpost. If you're under 50, it's a really strong hint to get your cholesterol checked out. But don't think of it as a diagnosis. Think of it as an opportunity. It's an early warning, a chance to get proactive. And of course, the absolute most important step is to talk to your doctor, who can look at the whole picture and figure out your personal risk.
And please, remember this, nothing replaces the fundamentals. No pill, no supplement, nothing. Managing cholesterol and protecting your heart for the long haul always starts with the basics. A heart-healthy diet, getting regular physical activity, maintaining a healthy weight, and not smoking. These are and always will be the pillars of good health.
So we're going to end with a question for you to think about. This knowledge isn't just interesting trivia, it's empowering. Seeing a sign like this isn't a reason to panic, it's a reason to act. Now that you know your own eyes might be giving you a clue about your heart, what's your next move going to be to protect your health for the long run?
All right, quick reset. Blink twice, stretch your shoulders, and don't worry, your health lesson isn't over yet. We're switching gears now, but this next topic is just as important for your body. And if you care about staying healthy the smart way, make sure you're subscribed.
All right, let's talk about something that's incredibly common but flies under the radar for so many people. It's called peripheral artery disease, or PAD for short. And you know, the first clues that something is wrong might not show up where you'd expect, like your chest. They might actually be in your legs, in the way you walk.
Seriously, do it right now if you can. Take a quick look down at your feet. Does anything seem off? It might sound a little strange, but have you noticed that the hair on your toes, or maybe your shins, has kind of disappeared? Or maybe one foot just always feels colder than the other, no matter what. These are actually surprisingly common signs of a circulation issue.
And this is the key thing I want you to take away. These little changes, they're not just random quirks of getting older, they are your body trying to send you a message, a pretty important one. It's a warning signal that the blood flow to your arms and legs is getting squeezed off, and we really need to listen to that.
So what's causing this? Well, it brings us to the main culprit, peripheral artery disease. To put it simply, PAD is what happens when the highways for your blood, your arteries, start to get narrowed. We're not talking about the ones around your heart, but the ones in your limbs, and they get narrowed by a buildup of gunk, this fatty stuff called plaque.
You know, the easiest way to think about it is like the plumbing in your house. Brand new pipes, water flows perfectly, right? But over years and years, rust and sediment can build up inside, and eventually, the water pressure drops to just a trickle. That's exactly what's happening inside your arteries. That plaque builds up, and your leg muscles end up starved for the oxygen-rich blood they desperately need.
And when your muscles don't get enough blood, they let you know about it. Think about it. When you start walking, your leg muscles are screaming for more fuel, more oxygen. But if those pipes are clogged, they can't get it. And that causes a very specific kind of pain, a cramping or an ache. This is the hallmark symptom of PAD. It even has a medical name, intermittent claudication. The key is right there in the name. It comes and goes. It starts when you move, and it stops when you rest.
So, who really needs to have this on their radar? Well, the risk factors are pretty clear-cut. And sitting right at the top of the list, I mean by a mile, is smoking. It is the #1 risk factor. But also, having diabetes, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol puts you at a much higher risk. Same goes if you're over 50 or if you have a family history of heart problems. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit. What is actually going on inside those arteries? Let's take a look at the science of what this clog really is.
This picture really tells the whole story, doesn't it? On one side, you have a healthy artery. It's wide open, like a clean new pipe. Blood can just rush through there, no problem. But then you look at the other one. That yellow stuff, that's the plaque. It's a nasty mix of cholesterol, fat, and other things. And you can see how it builds up and hardens, creating this serious bottleneck. It leaves just a tiny, narrow path for blood to try and sneak through.
Now, this is maybe the most important point I'm going to make today, so please listen closely. PAD is not just a leg problem. The process that clogs your leg arteries, atherosclerosis, it doesn't just happen in one place. It's a body-wide issue. So if you've got plaque in your legs, there's a very, very high chance you also have it in the arteries that feed your heart and your brain. And that, of course, dramatically increases your risk for a heart attack or a stroke.
Because that connection is so strong and the results are so serious, we have to spend another minute on the single biggest driver of this disease. There's just no way around it.
I want you to just look at this number for a second. 40 to 50%. Just let that sink in. It is a huge, huge number. What does it mean? Well, it's a harsh reality. That's the 5-year mortality rate for people who actively smoke and have symptoms of PAD. It means that for every 10 people in that group, 4 or 5 of them will not be alive in 5 years. And why? Because smoking is like pouring gasoline on the fire. It actively damages the lining of your arteries and makes them constrict, which just accelerates this whole process like nothing else.
Okay, a statistic like that is incredibly sobering. I get it. But it is not a death sentence. It's a wake-up call. Because here's the good news, and there is good news. We can't completely erase the plaque that's already there, but PAD is a condition you can absolutely manage. You have the power to halt its progress, to improve the symptoms, and to protect yourself.
So, where do you start? What's the #1 most effective, evidence-based treatment that doctors recommend? I bet the answer is going to surprise you.
That's right. It's not a medication, it's not a procedure. The gold standard, first-line treatment recommended by the biggest cardiology groups out there, we're talking the American Heart Association, is a specific, structured walking program. It is the most powerful weapon you have in this fight. And it's so beautifully simple. Here's how it works. You just walk at a normal pace until you start to feel that leg pain, that claudication. When it hits about a moderate level, you stop. You just stand there and rest until the pain goes away completely. Once it's gone, you start walking again. And you just repeat that cycle of walking and resting for about 30 to 50 minutes. If you can do that 3 to 5 times a week, something amazing happens. Your body starts to grow tiny new blood vessels that create a natural bypass around the blockages.
So exercise is the cornerstone, for sure. But to really take control, you want to build a complete, lifelong management plan around it.
Here it is, your 4-point action plan. Super simple. #1, and this is totally non-negotiable, you have to quit tobacco in all its forms. It is the single most important thing you can possibly do. #2, get moving with that walk, rest, repeat protocol we just talked about. 3, start eating a diet that helps your arteries, not hurts them. And #4, you got to work with your doctor to get those other risk factors, blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar, under control.
And what does that kind of diet look like? It's really not complicated. You basically want to load up your plate with more of the good stuff: fruits, vegetables, lean protein like fish and chicken, and lots of fiber. And at the same time, you want to eat way, way less of the stuff that helps build that plaque in the first place. Things like saturated fats, processed foods with tons of sugar and salt. You know the stuff.
And please remember, you do not have to figure this all out on your own. The absolute best way to manage PAD is with a team on your side. So start by talking to your primary care doctor. From there, they can get you connected with a vascular specialist, who are the experts on blood vessels, and probably a cardiologist to look after your overall heart health.
Just a quick word on supplements. You'll see a lot out there being studied for circulation, things like ginkgo biloba, but I want to be really clear. The proven bedrock foundation for treating PAD is everything we just talked about. Quitting smoking, that's structured exercise, diet, and any medications your doctor prescribes. Always build your plan on what we know works for sure.
So, let's end with this question. Your arteries are literally your lifelines. They carry oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in your body. That pain in your walk, it's not just an annoyance, it's a real warning. But you know what? It's also an opportunity to make a change. So ask yourself, what is one small step, one single thing you can do today to answer that warning and start taking back your health?
Thank you for your time. Subscribe for more health education. Like the video and share it to help others stay informed.